Now, as we work deeper into Indian philosophy or Eastern philosophy, what we're really studying is something called Sankhya. Sankhya quite literally means that which explains the whole. And so in this context, we can say that which explains the whole of life, or that which explains how to make whole or to heal. So there's a lot of ways that you can interpret this information, but we can use it as sort of a guidepost to understand our own internal states. Now, Sankhya is dualistic in nature. And dualism means that there are two aspects to something, two aspects to really all things. Life is dualistic in nature. So as an example, you can't have hot without understanding cold. You can't have light without understanding darkness. Does that make sense? So when you understand that all things are dualistic in nature, it really softens your own, likes and dislikes and preferences. It's that when you understand that you can't have one without the other, you become less and less subject to this extreme like or dislike, because you know that it's also going to carry with it opposing issues or viewpoints along with it. Something that is said over and over again within the Bhagavad Gita is that the enlightened individuals or the empowered souls find peace in victory and in defeat. When you think about victory and defeat in the context of the Bhagavad Gita, what it's talking about is a victory and defeat in the internal battle. So victory and defeat those are the poles, right? That's the dualistic nature of the internal battle that we'll all have. And so when you have peace in victory and defeat, it's a nice way to say that you will feel tranquil if you're making progress, or even in times that you slip and make mistakes, or fall victim to past conditioning or bad habits that you've had in the past. An element that I really wanted to explore here is what I like to call fair play. So we kind of hear this old adage that says, it's not whether you win or lose. You talk to your kid about this. It's not whether you win or lose. It's how you play the game, or it's if you had fun playing the game. And there's something to be noted there, is that the idea of having peace in victory and defeat, and then when you apply that to playing a game, whether you're playing cars with a toddler, or you're playing sports with a high school student, or if someone's figuring out, how to play games, with their friends as they go out, I think what's relevant is that fair play, or learning how to, the rules of the game, so to speak, learning the rules of the game is a lot more important than whether or not you come out victorious, or if you fail in the game, if you're defeated. And by that I mean, when you understand how to conduct yourself, if you win graciously. If you are defeated, you don't let that defeat you internally. It's something that you learn how to lose with grace. You learn how to lose and yet stay confident and stay upright about it. Those are some of the more fundamental things that we have to understand about the idea of being at peace, whether you win or lose, whether you're making progress or you're taking a backslide. Now, the other piece of dualism, and as it applies to Sankhya, is to really understand that all things in life, of your life, it falls into the two buckets. One is something that doesn't change, and then the other is something that's constantly changing. Your soul, or Atman, as what it's called in the Gita, is ever present. It's not changing. It's really something that's always there, and it is the eternal witness. On the other hand, you have pretty much everything else. It is your body, your breath, your mind, how you focus, and how you conduct yourself. So that's considered Prakriti, or body, mind, and breath is what I'll call it. So your body, your mind, and your breath are subject to all sorts of different types of change. And throughout the Gita, they explain the three states of change. So one of the gunas, is tamas. Then there's rajas, and then there's sattva. So explain those one at a time. Tamas, or being tamastic, is what you might see, is associated with lethargy or ignorance at times, and also the reluctance to change or adverse to change. I like to call it the negative mindset, because it looks at what it has and it doesn't want to change. It doesn't want to move. It's associated with the structure that you have currently, and it doesn't want to do much about that. It's slow to change, but when it does, it makes slow, systematic changes, but it doesn't happen overnight. The next one is rajas, or you might see it as rajastic. Rajas is this volatile change. It's turbulent, it's active. It's often associated with fire, because fire kind of like transmutes things. It literally changes the structure of wood, right? It burns it down into ash and sends smoke up as well. So it transmutes things. Rajas is super active, and I like to associate it with I guess what I should say is that it's risk tolerant. So it steers into risk, and it embraces a lot of change. I like to think of it as the positive mindset. So it's that part of you that when you see an opportunity, you think, that's great, nothing bad is gonna happen, and you kind of overlook the unexpected outcomes, the unintended consequences of making some sort of change. The last feature of change or quality of change is called sattva. It's also known as sattvic, if it's used differently in the sentence. This is the balanced approach. It's associated with like being luminous, balanced, and discerning. I like to think that, because we have a risk averse, a risk tolerant one, this one is more of that type of change that you still have all of your capacities, and you're able to determine and use a lot of calculations. You're able to figure out whether or not it's going to make sense to make that type of change. It's the discerning mind, and it's associated with like a neutral mindset. So if an opportunity is presented to you, there's part of you that might be really excited, or maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to do that. But then there's this other part of you that maybe, as you continue to groom it a little bit further, we can develop a little bit more of that discerning and that judgment piece of it. Going back to dualism, all three of these gunas impact your body, your mind, your breath, and really everything in the world. They don't, on the other hand, affect your soul or purusha. Your soul is this ever-present thing within you. And so because the soul is not affected by any of the change, you have to be able to see that the gunas are constantly impacting the body, the mind, the breath, prakriti. Now, it's the interactions among the gunas that really determine the quality of that substance. The soul, on the other hand, is the eternal witness, and it's ever present. The challenge for us is to unblock the soul. Because of its ever-presence, the only change that happens to it is that it becomes obstructed by the various changes and all of the other substances.